2021. I'm going to turn this over to my distinguished co-chair, Majority Leader Jason Rojas, to officially call us to order and provide some opening remarks.
Thank you, Secretary McCall, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Sorry that I can't be there in person like many people. I have a child who had to quarantine, so I am home today. Despite my background, I'm not in the House chamber. But certainly I want to thank everybody for joining us today and for participating in this important work. You know, I think this is one of those policy issues that have been around for a very long time, probably since the founding of our state. These questions about land use, environmental impact, even transportation, housing, even transportation and housing. And we know during the last legislative session, there was some legislation that was passed related to this matter. There were a lot of people who had lots of concerns, had lots of questions, had lots of interest in that particular legislation.
Majority Leader, we can still hear you if you'd like to continue.
Yep, sorry. I got confused on my end because I had the CTN on in another window and then it turned on and I heard your voice again giving opening remarks. So I paused that and turned it off now that I can focus more here. So I just want to thank everybody, you know, as I was saying a little bit while ago, talking about the importance of all of the different policy questions that are related to this commission and the important work that it means to the state of Connecticut in terms of how we grow, how we develop. How do we grow in terms of our communities? How do we grow in terms of economic development? How do we ensure that all the people who live in our communities are able to equitably benefit from land use decisions, from affordable housing decisions, from economic development decisions? And while not explicitly before us in terms of policy, but even thinking about transportation, because all of these policy issues are really tied together in terms of how we grow and develop as a state. And I know that Representative McCarthy-Vahey, I think, with my help, is going to take us through a quick PowerPoint that reviews the legislation that was passed this past session. And then from there, we'll go into some of the details in terms of how we're going to structure this work. Obviously, it's a very large commission with 36 members. And in terms of, you know, getting appointments to commissions, I think the fact that so many of the appointments, in fact, were made to this, I think speaks to the importance of all the of this policy to all the appointing authorities. Certainly just legislative leaders, the governor's office, OPM, other state agencies who all ensured they were going to be represented on this commission. I really speak volumes, I think, about the opportunity we have before us to tackle some of these issues that have been hanging around for a very long time. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair Rojas. And I want to echo your remarks with respect to the incredible opportunity that we have before us. There's so many different issues between land use, conservation, housing affordability, infrastructure. And as we begin to embark upon this journey together, at the core are issues of equity and how we chart a more equitable future for our state. I believe we're all aligned in making Connecticut a more affordable place to live, to invest in our future, and creating an economy that works for all. In fact, over the past year, we've made incredible progress with significant investments that would help facilitate equitable access, whether it's through investments in workforce development or childcare or higher education. And even as pertinent to this particular commission, looking at the innovative and diligent work by the Department of Housing to create access to housing throughout the state. I just want to highlight that this commission creates and presents an incredible opportunity for us to look at our existing provisions on how we use our land. It's an opportunity to bring in experts across the field. I'm looking at many of you here in the room and those that are on our Zoom today, so we can look at the laws that are in place and our plans and whether or not they support the plans for more equitable access. We all know that where we live governs opportunities, where we go to school. And so we want to make sure that folks from all walks of life have an opportunity to access opportunity. So I just want to encourage this team. We have a lot to accomplish, but we have an incredible opportunity, and I'm so appreciative of your partnership and the leadership of the legislature, as well as Representative McCarthy-Vahey for her vision for the work that we'll embark upon today, and appreciate your participation in the months to come. So with that, we would like to do some commission member introductions, and I'm going to actually call on each of you that are here today ask you to state your name, your position, and to tell us what you personally hope to learn from this commission and why you think this body of work that we've been charged with is important. And so to begin, I'm going to call on our very own Senator Norm Needleman. Senator.
Oh my, I'm eating my can of macaroni and cheese. Well, I think that it was said very well. We have some very intractable problems, and I'd love to be part of helping to find some solutions to them. So I guess that's the long and the short of it, and thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to call on Anika Lamar, who's bringing us expertise in state or local planning. Anika, are you with us today? All right, we're going to come back to Anika at a later time. We have Donna Hamzy, who's representing a municipal advocacy organization. Donna, are you with us today?
I am here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be part of this group on behalf of CCM and on behalf of myself and my family being a citizen of the state. I think this commission is going to be able to offer a lot of, hopefully in my end, education in terms of where we're going and how I can help to get us there myself, and then obviously with the strength of our CCM membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. We have Stephen Kleppen, who brings expertise in zoning policy. Stephen, are you with us today?
Yes, my name is Steve Kleppen. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director for the City of Norwalk. Thank you for the invitation to join the commission. I'm hoping to provide my experience in a practical way on how these issues get handled on the ground level and implemented. And I'm very optimistic and hopeful for the future of the state.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. We have Lamond Daniels, who brings community development policy expertise.
Good afternoon, everyone, and also thank you for the invitation. Lamont Daniels. I work for the City of Norwalk. I am the city's first chief of community service. Excuse me, the City of Norwalk's first chief of community services, overseeing 5 critical departments, which include our health and human services, our fair rent department, and others. And I think I'm looking forward to this work, but also bring a perspective of the impacts that occur when we're not looking at it from an equitable perspective, specifically our marginalized communities and what these plans and how and what these plans look like and the impacts they have on community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamond. Very excited to have with us Kylie Goslin. Our paths are crossing once again, but Kylie brings significant expertise in state affordable housing policy. Kylie, over to you.
Thank you, Secretary McCaw. Kylie Goslin, Executive Director of the Partnership for Strong Communities. The partnership is a housing and homelessness advocacy and research organization, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot from all of you. This is a great group of expertise and experts that are gathered here, and looking forward to really digging in and having some tough but informative conversations about some of the challenges we face with regards to housing access, housing affordability, and housing development here in the state, noting that the decisions we make around housing, zoning, planning have decades-long implications. So looking forward to, again, having some good conversations and learning from all of you, and hopefully moving the needle somewhat on these very difficult issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kylie. I believe we have Anika Lamar, who is on Zoom. Anika, would you introduce yourself to us, please?
Hi, I'm Anika Singh Lamar. I'm on the faculty at Yale Law School, where I teach a community and economic development clinic that represents fair housing organizations, affordable housing developers, municipally affiliated organizations, nonprofits, farmers markets, the full panoply of folks who do community development. Very glad to be here with you all. Obviously, the state has some serious challenges when it comes to issues of housing affordability, segregation, equity, equality of opportunity, and the like. And I'm hopeful that we can take those problems seriously and develop some actual real solutions. Thanks.
Thank you for participating, Anika. Benjamin Winograd.
Thank you. I'm a member of town council in West Hartford. A little newer to the issue than a lot of people here. Worked in West Hartford to allow accessory dwelling units. It was about a 4 or 5 year struggle to get it done, which we did just before the state did its job and really helping that effort along for the whole state. So I'm looking to learn a lot more about the topic and looking to sort of add the perspective of an elected official in a suburb, addressing the issues that really are crucial for the state. I mean, ultimately, it's an issue of economic and racial justice, and I'm thrilled to be a member of a group working to work to those ends. Thank you.
Gregory Ugald is bringing expertise in home building. Gregory.
Hi, so I am Greg Ugaldi, and I'm the immediate past chairman of our national organization, our National Association of Home Builders, and I'm a builder of single-family and multifamily housing throughout the state, and also a land developer. So on behalf of our industry, we hope to bring some expertise and some insight onto many of the housing affordability impacts that we're going to be talking about, as well as land use that we have to go through as a process in everything that we do. So we look forward to it, and we do expect to have a great outcome.
Thank you, Gregory. Francis Pickering is representing the Connecticut Association of Councils of Governments. Francis.
Thank you, Francis Pickering. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Connecticut Council of Governments since its inception in 2015. My region represents the southwestern part of the state and probably faces the largest housing affordability challenges and has, not coincidentally, a lot of experience with innovative solutions to housing affordability. I'm here to represent the regional perspective. So many of these things we talk about, be it jobs, economy, housing, transportation, water, air, habitat, are regional in nature. And so I'm glad to bring that to the table. Thank you.
Welcome, Francis. Elizabeth Gara is representing municipal advocacy. Elizabeth.
Yes, this is Rudy Marconi sitting in for Betsy today. I didn't mean to throw you a curveball by saying her name in my face, so my apologies for that. I spoke with Betsy this morning. She's on vacation and couldn't make it today and asked me to sit in, so I'm pleased to be here with such a distinguished group and looking forward to gathering a lot of information relative to our environment, the housing issues, et cetera, and how we move our state forward, impacting every single municipality in our state. So thank you for having me here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining on Betsy's behalf. We have Senator Steve Cassano with us today. Senator. Senator, just a reminder to unmute yourself, please.
It wouldn't be me if I wasn't muted.
That is what your colleague, Representative McCarthy Vahey, indicated as well, sir.
It's great to be, actually, even though I'm not there live, it's great to be talking with people again. I miss it dearly. I'm looking forward to the challenge we have before us. Spent 28 years as a mayor, a deputy mayor, and 10 years now in the Senate. The challenges never stop, and it's things like this that keep you going. So thanks everyone for being a part of it.
Thank you, Senator. And we have one of our visionaries, Representative Kristen McCarthy Vahey. Where do you?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, and our chair, co-chair. And I would like to thank also our Majority Leader, Representative Rojas. I'm Kristen McCarthy Vahey, and I have the honor of serving as co-chair of Planning and Development along with Senator Cassano, and I represent the town of Fairfield. And Madam Secretary, you asked us what we hope to learn and what we hope to achieve. What I hope to learn is to continue to hear from a variety of perspectives, as we did throughout the session, but to make sure that those perspectives are represented as voices around the table, and to learn, as you said at the outset, from the experts and have the opportunity to go forward and examine access and equity and sustainability for our state. And what we hope to accomplish, well, we help to create the law. We're going to get into the specifics, but I'd like for us to actually check the boxes. As I was walking in with the secretary, I noted that I'm not a person interested in doing things for show. I would like us to accomplish objectives that will actually be meaningful to the people of our state and help make this a more, an even more equitable, open, and affordable place for people to live. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Senator Tony Hwang is here with us today. Apologies, Senator. Senator Hwang.
Not at all, Madam Secretary. I'm sorry that I'm in transit, so if I'm a poor presentation, I apologize to all the members. But I absolutely wanted to be engaged in this to be sure that we are productive and move the state forward in addressing the critical needs that we have. It is indeed an esteemed body, and I'm really looking forward to engaged and learning from everyone. Thank you very much for hosting this.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Joseph Zullo, please. We will circle back with Representative Zullo. Senator Christine Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person today. My schedule just wouldn't allow it in district, but I represent the 12th district in Connecticut. I am also the Senate Chair of the Environment Committee. I am really looking forward to diving into the goals and considerations around this incredibly complicated and multifaceted topic, and grateful to the Planning and Development Committee for really bringing us all together to talk about how we can bring Connecticut forward, and particularly with respect to housing. Obviously, I'm particularly interested in the conservation component, but all of the pieces together are things that we really need to be putting our heads together on to talk about, discuss in detail, and really see how we can develop Connecticut's future. So thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. We have Representative Gresko, who's the House Chair for the Environment Committee. He might not be here with us today, but we just wanted to properly acknowledge him. Senator Craig Minor, Senate Ranking Member of Environment. If you're here today, we'd be happy to have you give some remarks. All right, Senator's not here with us today. Representative Stephen Harding is representing the House Ranking Member of Environment Committee, but is not with us here today. Senator Rick Lopez, Senate Chair of Housing, also not here with us, but acknowledging his participation. Representative Brandon McGee. Okay. Senator Paul Ciccarella, Senate Ranking Member of Housing. Senator Ciccarella, if you're here with us today, we'd be happy to have you unmute and give us some opening remarks. All right, we'll circle back. Representative Joe Paletta, House Ranking Member of the Housing Committee, is not here with us today, but is recognized. Senator Will Haskell, Senate Chair for Transportation, is with us today.
You hear me? Yes, we can.
I am. I do apologize. For some reason, my screen was not turning on. As the ranking member in housing, I am looking forward to being a part of this, listening, learning, and seeing how we can be of assistance to move this forward to help our constituents in the state of Connecticut. So thank you, and I look forward to speaking with everybody further.
And it was my twin brother. I was driving his car.
We'll turn to Senator Will Haskell, who's representing the Transportation Committee.
Thanks so much, Madam Secretary. It's great to see you all. I'll be very, very brief and just say that I feel as though we're living through a historic moment when it comes to transportation infrastructure and investments in public transit, and we ought to make sure that those investments are made available to everybody in the state. So I'm really excited to work with all of you, to learn from all of you, and I am grateful to be a part of this commission.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Roland Lamar, House Chair for Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you everyone for joining today. I think this is a really robust committee that I'm hoping will deliver on so many of the goals that we have as a state,
As my good co-chair mentioned, we are at a historic moment where we will, for the first time in 60 years, make generational type investments in our state's future. We have the ability to really determine how and where and to what extent our state grows. And we can only do that if we remove some of the artificial constraints that many of the locations in our state have put on our growth. And I'm hoping that we can have a robust conversation about our opportunities and the role that transportation can play, but also the opportunities that housing and around those transit options will take. So thank you all, and I look forward to learning a lot more.
Thank you so much, Representative. Senator Heather Summers, Senate Ranking Member of the Transportation Committee. We acknowledge that she's participating on the commission, and we have Representative Devin Carney, House Ranking for Transportation, who's here with us today.
Hi, thank you, Secretary McCaw, and thank you everyone for being a part of the commission. I've served on 3 of the 4 committees that have to do with this commission. So I'm obviously the ranking member of transportation. I've served on planning and development, and I've served on environment. So I'm looking forward to getting to work and seeing what comes out of the committee and listening to so many of the experts that we have on our commission. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Representative. We have Attorney Timothy Hollister, who brings us expertise in planning and zoning.
Thank you, Secretary McCaw. I'm Attorney Tim Hollister from Hinckley, Allen, and Snyder in Hartford. I'm a land use and environmental attorney. I've been working on affordable housing development for a long time, and I'm looking now for middle ground. That type of development is often collaborative and cooperative, but sometimes it's contentious, and I'm trying to find the middle ground where it would always be collaborative and cooperative. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Hollister. Erin Kemple is bringing us expertise in fair housing.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Kemple. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. We're a statewide organization working on housing discrimination and promoting integration. And I'm looking forward to working on this committee because according to our most recent analysis of housing segregation data, Connecticut is now more segregated than it was in 2015 and more segregated than every single state in the southern part of the United States and exceeds for the most part segregation in South Africa. So we have a lot of work to do to ensure that all of our residents have access to the communities that they want to live in. Thank you.
Erin, we appreciate you joining in these efforts that we begin today. We have David Barkin, who's representing Commissioner Jabal on behalf of the Department of Administrative Services. David?
Thank you, Secretary McCaw. Opening my glasses. So my interests include smart growth, responsible development, regionalism in particular, which I think needs to grow in Connecticut, form-based zoning. I was formerly a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals in my town and early subscriber to Desegregate Connecticut. I'm chief architect for DAS Construction Services. That's my role, my day job. And I'm interested in learning the different perspectives of the people here and to contribute my knowledge about design and planning.
Thank you, David. We have Deputy Commissioner Alexandra Dom on behalf of Commissioner Lehman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Working? Yes. So I'm the Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Secretary. And I oversee all of our place-based initiatives, of which we have many, that DECD is constantly investing in large-scale development projects. And so I think the objective for me in this commission is making sure that we bring the learnings back to DECD, make sure that our programs are informed by these responsible practices that we're all going to come up with over the course of our work. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Jennifer Perry on behalf of Commissioner Dykes, Energy and Environmental Protection.
Thank you, Secretary McCaw. I'm really excited to be part of this commission, participate in these discussions, offer our agency's perspective through the lenses of environmental protection, environmental justice, sustainability, and make progress in sort of finding that sustainable and equitable future for Connecticut.
Welcome, Jennifer. We have Randy Pincus, who's representing Commissioner Sela Mosquero Bruno from the Department of Housing.
Good afternoon. I'm a staff attorney with the Department of Housing, and our work touches really on many of the areas that we've already started to talk about. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these issues interrelate and how we can work together from a lot of really different perspectives coming together in this group. I think it's exciting to have people from all ends of policy and all ends of the spectrum to address these larger issues in partnership together. So I look forward to contributing and bringing these issues and ideas back to the commissioner and the department to see how we can work together to make that change in the state.
Thank you, Brandy. And finally, we have David Elder on behalf of Commissioner Gilletti from the Department of Transportation.
Hi, thank you, Secretary McCaw, for having me. I'm excited to represent the Department of Transportation. I've worked with many of you in some capacity or another over the past 20 years in Connecticut. I have experience as a municipal city and town planner, as a zoning enforcement officer, and a former inland wetlands agent. And for the last 10 years, I've been leading the Office of Strategic Planning and Projects at the Connecticut Department of Transportation, which is an exciting office within the agency. We do the statewide long-range plan, the statewide freight plan, the statewide active transportation plan, which was formerly known as the bicycle and pedestrian plan. And we're also currently preparing the state rail plan. And my office also gets involved in some of the other projects that don't necessarily have a home. We get involved in some of the joint development agreements for the agency, and my office has also staffed the Governor's Council on Climate Change. But I think what I'd like to learn, and what I think I'll probably focus on and kind of keep coming back to, is how we make decisions about, you know, where we fund, what we fund, and at what levels of funding. One of the things I've learned is that you know, there are differences between sort of strategic and structural plans that are sort of grounded in resources, and then there's aspirational plans and policies and objectives, and they're all good, they're all worthwhile. Some of them are meant to inspire, others are meant to be actionable, and I'll probably try to, you know, keep coming back to that and keep us sort of focused on which one our goals and objectives are. And I'm always interested in sort of the methodology of how we choose to spend those limited resources. So I'm very happy to be part of this commission, and I look forward to getting to know all of you and working hard over the next 6 months or year. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. Is there anyone else who's joined us today that hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? All right, excellent. I'm going to turn this over to Majority Leader Jason Rojas and Representative McCarthy-Vahey to walk us through Public Act 21-29, House Bill 6107, so we can understand the task that we have at hand. So with that, over to you, Mr. Co-Chair, or to you, Representative McCarthy-Vahey.
Yeah, I think we'll pivot right over to Representative McCarthy-Vahey, so we're not tripping over each other since I'm here and she's there.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. I believe that there is a PowerPoint that we are going to be able to share. Is that correct? So we'll just pause for a moment to make sure that that gets up on the screen on both the Zoom as well as here in the Legislative Office Building. In one of our wonderful hybrid meetings. That's for another meeting topic. Okay, well, we'll move fairly quickly through this, seeing as some of you spent many hours with us in P&D and then on the floor of the General Assembly, but just so that we're all on the same page here today. So the summary of Public Act 2129, which was House Bill 6107. And forgive me, I'm toggling between screens, so hang on for one moment. Okay, we can go to the next slide, if you will. Thank you. Okay, primarily the act reorganized and clarified 8-2, which is our zoning enabling statute. And what it did was let communities know what they shall do, what they shall not do, and what they may do. And it reorganized that to make it a little bit easier for everybody to read and understand, including our attorneys. This was an effort of over many years and from many stakeholders. It also allows towns to charge the technical consultant fees, as you can see when analyzing a proposed development, which gives towns additional tools. The first bullet there did as well. We created standards and allowed accessory dwelling units as of right in each community. and I'm sure you're familiar with that, also does have an opt-out provision in it. We required training and certification for the land use and zoning enforcement officials. Again, an effort that many of you here have worked on for many years, and will be supported by organizations like COST and CCM and OPM. Thank you very much. We clarified the process for how the municipalities submit their affordable housing plans, and then we also specifically allowed the WPCA, which is the Water Pollution Control Authority for anyone watching at home, to include plans for developable areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the other big thing that the Public Act accomplished was to create this commission. And what we realized was there was a lot to discuss, and we needed to bring together the diverse voices, and it was wonderful to hear the comments. So this will allow us to continue the conversation and evaluate the policies that are related to the topics that you all brought up: land use, conservation, housing affordability, infrastructure, which of course infrastructure includes transportation, and many other things as we've been discussing. Next slide, please. So we are a 36-member group. We are a large body, but we have a lot to accomplish. We're very fortunate to have Madam Secretary and Majority Leader Rojas as our appointments, as our co-chairs. The Majority Leader was appointed jointly by the Speaker and the Senate President, and other appointments were made by the Governor and legislative leadership, and as well indicated. The participants from the 6 state agencies were indicated in the legislation. We have participation, as Rep. Carney mentioned, 4 committees, chairs and ranking members, planning and development, environment, housing, and transportation, so that we have a good cross-section. We are required to submit our first report January 1st, 2022. I will recognize the time frame. I will also recognize that the legislature created dozens of groups like this, and there are only a handful that have moved forward. So I would like to thank the appointing authorities who did make those appointments and allow us to actually get going, as well as our leadership for getting us there. We'll talk a little bit more about that interim report later in the agenda. The final report, January 1st, 2023, as we often do in legislation or when we complete our work. So we'll talk about that more as we move forward. So the specific reporting requirements that are within the Public Act are that we talk about the process for the state plan of conservation and development, what is considered and how it's developed and how it is adopted. Similarly, same type of thing for the state's consolidated plan for housing and community development. So again, the process and what we're considering for that. And I'll just note, the state POCD, we know that we need to talk about this because we have had difficulty adopting an updated plan in the legislature over a number of years. We also are required to look at the municipal affordable housing plans, how compliance is demonstrated, how reporting happens, and how we know that municipalities are effectively able to deliver on the results of that effort. We are required to look at the wastewater and sewerage systems. This is something that we know we want to make sure we're protecting our environment and also supporting development in places in ways that are sustainable. And we need to talk between agencies about what works for that. And then finally, we have the opportunity to create model design guidelines, and that's part of the act as well. Next slide, please. So I won't repeat all this because basically what I just shared, those are the working groups. These are the things that we would need to do. And because there is such a significant assignment, I will say, I joke often as the chair about homework. And I was just with the president of UConn. We were discussing homework earlier. So this is a group that will, if we're successful, we will have done quite a bit of homework together with others from our state. The other piece about the language of the bill and the creation of this commission is that it allows our leadership to have others who are not the named members participate actively in these working groups. And that's very much the hope that this will occur, because we can then bring an even more diverse set of voices around the table. But you can see those are the groups there: the state and municipal statutory plan reporting process, development, the state consolidated housing plan, the municipal affordable housing plans, and the wastewater sewerage systems. And I believe that's it. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Representative McCarthy-Vahey. That is a great segue. Thank you for providing the overview. It's a great segue into a brief organizational discussion, which we would like to conclude with a vote for how we will structure ourselves. Just to touch upon the working groups and where there are opportunities for other participants. Under the state and municipal statutory plan reporting process, our role will be to make recommendations on any statutory changes to developing and implementing our plan of conservation and development. We see potential participants could include the Regional Council of Governments, the Connecticut Chapter of American Planning Association. Under the Model Code development, we've identified that the Department of Administrative Services, the Home Builders and Remodelers Association, DOT, local fire marshals, town engineers, public works could bring input into our work under that particular working group. We have the state consolidated housing plan that will provide recommendations for any statutory changes on our process for developing our plan for housing and community development, and the implementation of that plan. DCD, the Department of Housing, are represented. We could also bring in CHFA to also support that body of work. Under the municipal affordable housing plans, again, looking at recommendations for guidelines and incentives for compliance with the requirements for affordable housing plans. We have the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, our Council on Small Towns, and the Department of Housing, who are stand ready to support the work of this commission. And then finally, under this sewerage working group, where we'll look at our various categories of discharge and how they impact communities throughout the state. We have the Department of Public Health and our deep team that stands by to support the work of that particular working group. So with that, just want to open it up for any discussion if there are questions or any recommendations pertaining to the working groups. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. I just have a question, a clarification on the model code development work group. Is that meant to be model code as in a building code, or is that more addressing the issues of zoning guidelines, as in design standards like form-based zoning templates?
So in the legislation, the model design, our task is to look at model design guidelines for buildings, as well as looking at the structure of our streets and how we're structuring the streets and the buildings within municipalities. That can include looking at common architectural and site design. So we're glad to have you as our chief architect, including cataloging different common building types, establishing reasonable and cost-effective design review standards for approval, and then looking at the procedures for expediting the approval of such buildings. So it's really looking at the building and street infrastructure, and then the role of the approval at the local level.
So that's why I raised a question about code. Code means something different to me, and it would mean something different to the building officials and probably the home builders and people involved in construction. That I think that word, I know it's sort of wordsmithing, but it needs to be changed to something else that doesn't imply creating kind of local codes.
That's a great point. I mean, the legislation speaks to model design, so we could modify that working group to model design. Yes, sir.
Tim Hollister, I have a question that I guess is for Representatives McCarthy-Vahey and Rojas. Under Section 12 of 2129, the municipalities are supposed to file their affordable housing plans by June of next year. And yet our charge is to come up with model or guidelines for their plans during calendar 2022. How do you see that playing out? Does that warrant that we try to accelerate our work on that part of the agenda in the first half of the year? Any guidance would be, I think, welcome. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead. Co-Chair Majority Leader Rojas, did you want to comment at all with respect to the deadline for the affordable housing plans, which is June 1st, 2022. We certainly have the opportunity, if we felt that the recommendations here would be of benefit for municipalities to incorporate, to recommend a legislative change. But Majority Leader, do you care to comment?
Yeah, no, I don't think we made the assumption that we would try to rush through in our work to try to complete that work. I think towns, municipalities have been working on those plans for some time, and we want to allow them to submit those plans because there'll still be a process for reviewing them and ensuring that they meet the goals that I think we all have around affordable housing. But certainly, I think our work will inform decision-making around local affordable housing plans as we look to the future.
Representative McCarthy-Vahey.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And I would concur with the Majority Leader. I think what's happened in the legislative discussions in the past is what kinds of carrots and sticks might be used for communities. So we know that many communities are in the process of developing their affordable housing plans. And in fact, groups such as Regional Plan Associates have offered guides as to how communities can do that with the help of our Department of Housing, actually. So the idea with this group would be to look at, as we move forward, we want communities to have plans and we want them to be implemented. So how are we helping communities understand what it means to actually say, yes, we've implemented? Who are they communicating that to? What does that mean? What kind of benchmarks are there? How are we identifying results in communities and communicating that to one another so that we're all aware of what's happening? So I would concur with Representative Rojas, our Majority Leader, that the idea is not to rush through that conversation, but to really come up with a path forward. And that's really been quite a difficult discussion in the legislature and with municipalities over time, given our 169 differences.
Other questions, discussion, or recommendations concerning the 5 working groups? Francis.
This is Erin Kemple from Connecticut Fair Housing Center. And am I to understand that there is no subgroup that's going to be looking at model zoning codes?
Erin, can you repeat your question, please?
Sorry, we are having a hard time hearing you on the Zoom also, so I apologize. But anyway, it doesn't sound like any of these working groups are going to be looking at model zoning codes or addressing any zoning issues. Is that correct?
Undersecretary Heft.
So under the model code development talks about zoning and subdivision regulations under that working group per the Public Act.
Okay, so then my second question is, what kind of enforcement authority does this group have? So in particular, I'm thinking of both the state consolidated housing plan and the municipal affordable housing plans. If this group said, for instance, you must include A, B, C, X, Y, Z in both those plans, and the Department of Housing, which is responsible for the state consolidated housing plan, said, no, we're not going to include that, or we don't think that's a good idea, or something along those lines, is there any ability to make that happen, or is this solely advisory?
Aaron, I'm happy to take a stab at that. I think, you know, the point of this commission is to make recommendations. I think anything that we want done moving forward would need to be done legislatively and placed into law. And I'm sure if a particular department didn't want to do it, we would have some fruitful discussions about what perhaps the legislature would prefer happen versus what the executive branch might prefer happen, with lots of voices informing that conversation.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Francis?
Yes, thank you. In response to Aaron's question, I would like to point out that the model design guidelines under the statute are intended for development implementation by the regional councils of government. So there's a lot of education that will occur of local elected bodies, and I think that shouldn't be understated. Couple of questions. One is under working group 1, state municipal statutory plan reporting process. My understanding is it's not just about the reporting process, but actually about the greater process of developing, adopting, and implementing the state POCD. So we might want to
That's
simplify
correct.
that language. Second, I appreciate you listing out all the potential interested parties under these working groups, but some of us on this commission may have expertise in more than one working group. So will we be allowed to participate in multiple working groups?
The answer is yes. And immediately after this agenda item, Majority Leader Rojas is going to speak to participation in the working groups. If you are participating via Zoom and you want to provide feedback, please feel free to use the raise hand function or unmute yourself and identify yourself as well. Okay, so based on the feedback of the members, the one modification is under model code development to make that model code and design development. And if we are all in agreement, then I would be more than happy to have a motion to approve the establishment of 5 working groups: state and municipal statutory plan process, model code and design development, state consolidated housing plan, municipal affordable housing plans, and sewerage.
Aaron Kempel, so moved.
Second.
Great. It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. I'm going to turn this over to Majority Leader Jason Rojas, and he will walk us through the working group co-chairs and membership.
Thank you, Secretary McCaw. Yeah, and we'll keep this kind of simple, right? Obviously, we need to identify some co-chairs of each of the working groups. We have a preference for having, well, if it's possible, we'd like to recommend having it one legislator and one non-legislator serve as those co-chairs. One to have voices from outside of the building always reflected in the process, and it's always helpful with this type of work to have a voice from inside the building reflected in the leadership process too. So, both Secretary McCaw and I it was our intent to appoint those co-chairs, but we're not going to just randomly select people. What we'd like to first do is hear from any of you who have an interest and have the time and capacity to serve as co-chairs of one of these working groups. Over the next week, just let us know of your interest and explain why you're interested in serving as co-chair. And then from there, Secretary McCaw and I would go about appointing the co-chairs of each of the working groups.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Any discussion? Excellent. Co-Chair Rojas, same for the working group membership. Did you want to give any comments on that process? Same process?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Soon after this meeting, we'll have an online mechanism for taking self-nominations for individuals who want to be a part of one of these working groups. We'll certainly try to get that out into the media as well to bring as much exposure to it. Hopefully all of you will share it within your social media networks too, or within your professional networks to try to get other individuals who are interested in the process to participate. We didn't set a set number, set size of the working group. So I think we'd like to work with each of the co-chairs to determine a reasonable number to ensure that we have enough voices reflected in the process, but also make it such that it's not so big that you can never get a meeting organized because you're waiting on somebody to fill out a doodle poll of some kind. So, generally speaking, you might want to think about 12 to 15 people on each of these commissions. But again, I think we'll work with the co-chairs to determine exactly what that right number is. But before we get to that, we know that there's a significant amount of interest and there's a lot of important voices here in Connecticut, or perhaps outside of Connecticut. I don't think it precludes getting some subject matter expertise from somebody who may not be a resident of the state of Connecticut. I don't think there's anything that precludes that. But we'll begin that process right after this meeting and begin to populate the various working groups.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or feedback or discussion for Co-Chair Rojas? Representative.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I again would like to thank the Majority Leader and his team. This is a tremendous opportunity, and I appreciate the openness of this process. And I think as we all look to reach out to others inside and outside of our networks, I will be taking the comments that were made by all of the members today in terms of what people are looking for in the various angles. And I appreciate Majority Leader Rojas, your specific mention of the ability to bring in outside experts, whether or not they're serving directly as members of the committee. So just to keep that in mind, where we may have people in our communities or different folks who we want to hear from, it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be a member of the working group to be able to participate in that way.
Thank you. We welcome your input for knowledgeable experts or folks that have a perspective that would help with the work we're doing. So please be sure to send over any recommendations you might have. Next, to get us organized so we can get our work started, we want to just briefly address the commission meeting frequency. The proposed schedule is in your packet. And our recommendation is to meet bi-monthly as a full commission. Francis, you have a question?
Yes, I did have one question on the preceding item, which was in the working groups, I understand having the appropriate size. Will there be any differentiation between the role of commission members in the working groups? Because we are, I assume, voting members of the commission, and then external parties we invite as perhaps subject matter experts.
We have not yet formalized what the role of the voting members versus the non-voting members would be, Francis. I think what's most important is to ensure that we have broad representation throughout the community. One of the next steps we'll have will be general governance and how we're going to structure decisions that come out of those working groups. And that has not yet been established. But if the commission has any thoughts on what they'd like to see, feel free to send that through staff. Other questions with respect to working groups before we move on to the meeting schedule?
Secretary McCaw, this is David Elder. Hopefully I'm not interrupting anyone else, but just in terms of organization, who is our primary point of contact for getting those emails to about which subcommittee we're interested in being on, and just general questions with meeting organization? Who's our primary point person?
Undersecretary Heft.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. No, it's not me.
He's not accepting that passing of the ball there.
I believe it's going to be on the legislative side through P&D, or transportation is going to be sending that out. As this is a legislative committee, they'll be sending out the form that Representative Rojas spoke about.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That is a stay tuned until that person has been selected, but it's not under Secretary Martin Heft.
It's whoever's not in the room at the moment. But.
There you go. There you go. All right. So we propose that we meet bi-monthly as a full commission. You have the meeting schedule. All meetings will be the first Monday of the month at 3 p.m. And if there are no edits to this meeting schedule, I'd be happy to take a motion to establish our 2022 commission meeting schedule as presented.
So moved. Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. All right, and so finally, we have the January 1st, 2022 interim report to the legislature. I'm hoping that you guys have already started your homework that Representative McCarthy-Vahey has referenced. We recognize that to do the work properly, that we do not have an adequate amount of time to compile that interim report. And so we are recommending that we request an extension of time, which would require a vote. So right now the deadline is to submit by January 1st, 2022, and then again by January 1st, 2023 to submit the report. And so we are requesting an extension of time. Under Secretary Martin Heft, can you clarify the time period in which we're extending to?
The legislation actually doesn't state a time frame in it, so it's whatever the commission would like to see as a recommendation. I would probably recommend 6 months to be able to present an interim report that would allow all the working committees to at least get started, and for this full commission to have at least a couple more meetings.
So we'll open it up for discussion for thoughts on the time frame to put together a realistic interim report. Representative.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And I would concur with Mr. Heft. I would note that our June meeting is June 6th. So it might make the most sense to just after June 6th, which would allow us the opportunity to have an actual vote and discussion. So I concur.
Thank you, Representative Francis.
It's not exactly clear to me what the difference between the interim report and the final report is, but one thing that might be of interest to the legislators is the end of legislative session. They might be very busy in the May timeframe. So if they feel more time would be warranted, we could push it a bit beyond June.
Kylie?
I'll suggest July 1st, which is exactly 6 months after the date, which gives a month after that, or shortly, almost a month after our June meeting, and a little bit of time past the end of the session
Very good. Any other?
for the interim.
Thank you. Any other thoughts with respect to a July 1st? Okay. And anyone on Zoom, if you care to comment? All right. So then the motion is to authorize the co-chairpersons to request an extension to the commission meeting on or after July 1st, 2022 to complete the interim report. First, I need someone to move it.
Aaron Kempel, so moved.
All right. Motion's been moved, and now if we can have a second, please.
Second, Rudy Marconi.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Oh, any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, excellent. So we've established working groups. We have a meeting schedule. We have a deadline for our first interim report. And we are going to open our meeting up for public comment. I'm going to turn this over to Majority Leader Rojas. There are members of the public.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Again, not knowing if there's anybody in there in person who would like to offer any comment to us. So I would first ask for folks in the room to answer that question.
We, Majority Leader, we do not see any participants that are here today for public comment or
And then
online.
my second question would be, I believe there was a remote access to be able to provide testimony, and I don't know if someone in the room is monitoring that question as well, or that opportunity.
Majority Leader, no one has requested remote access for public comment.
Well, then I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Well, I just want to say thank you to my co-chair, to Representative McCarthy-Vahey, and to all of you for a great kickoff. We're officially organized. Let the work and the homework begin. Please look out for communications concerning the establishment of the working groups and submit your ideas for participants. And we look forward to the work that we have before us in the months to come. With that, happy to take a motion to adjourn. Great. All right. All in favor of adjourning today's first meeting?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you all. We'll see you in the coming months. It looks like we'll be back together on February 7th and certainly with working groups prior to that beginning their work. Thank you all and have a great day.